I am Biscuit Weasel, and my man Flair is on the other line, as always, guys. So I want to say thank you guys so much for coming to game with us. So in today's video, we're going to be talking to our buddy Crash again. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because he was in our last video with us talking about those investment stopping points. So we're going to be continuing this series with tips from a 950 plus day player. But before we get to that, if you're new to our channel, thank you guys so much. Make sure you hit that big red subscribe button. Make sure you like the video, share it with your friends, alliance mates, and turn on those bell notifications so that when we post a new video, you get the notification. It really does help us out.
Like the bell, like
Bing! We'd also like hearing from you guys. So as you guys watch this video, leave us some feedback. Did you learn something? Is there something we maybe missed? Drop those comments in that comment section. If you guys want to catch us live, our Discord links are going to be there, as well as Flair's Twitch channel is going to be down in the description as well. Well, all right, guys, let's get to Crash's interview. Here we go. We are back with our good friend Crash. If you haven't watched our first interview with him, click up here in this top right hand corner for the first interview where we talk about those investment stopping points, level 20, level 30, all the way up to level 60. Today we're going to be talking with Crash about some of the mistakes that he made, we made, and some mistakes that you guys should avoid. And then also, as a brand new player, if you start now with these tips and these practices, guys, you're going to save a lot of headaches down the road. How, if you were to look at my roster, what's probably one major mistake that you think I made, or something I shouldn't have done?
I think the biggest, I think if I remember correctly, I think one of the first things I said to you was, why is your shield medic so freaking high compared to the rest of your shield team?
This is true.
True. The big thing, and I think you may say this at some point, Crash, is that there's some singular characters that we want to take up, but overall we want to keep the teams relatively balanced, because especially for purposes like Blitz, you want to have them relatively balanced so you don't have some situation where your one strong character on the team is a shield medic and you're the one strong character on the generated team is like a Hela or something like that. So you want it to be relatively close so you have better matchups than Blitz.
Okay. Crash, what are what are your top 3 biggest mistakes? Things that if you could redo, you would do over right now.
The first one that popped in my mind when you guys was really, honestly, it's character shards. I've gone from one extreme to the other, and looking back at it now, I wish I could go back and change it a little bit.
When you say character shards, what do you mean?
Well, so basically, when I first started, I didn't really farm shards. I simply unlocked them through events, blitzes, orbs, whatnot.
Okay.
And I spent almost all of my energy getting gear to move. Basically, this isn't I don't feel like this is a mistake because it ended up working out, but I went very, very wide, very, very quick.
Okay.
So I was farming gear and whatnot to move basically my entire roster up to that level 45 threshold that we talked about before.
Now,
so
when you say going wide, you're talking about the number of teams, the number of characters that you have at those levels that we talked about last week, right?
Right. So I farmed a lot of blue gear and didn't farm the shards, and now I have thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of blue gear, and realized, a year or so in the year and a half into the game, that I'm like, you know what, I can't do all these flash events, and I can't unlock a legendary when they come out because I didn't farm shards. So let me go get those. And then I went to the extreme. Not only did I go get them, I finished everybody. So shards are a lot more important now than they were, particularly in the early.
Especially considering the fact that most of the unlock tiers for those characters, the gear requirement is relatively low.
But obviously, now there's so much you need to do with the flash events and the legendaries that you've got to farm those shards. You got to have those characters at 5-star. or 6-star for Phoenix. And if you don't, then you're going to miss them, and you don't want to miss out on some of the best characters and or some of the best resources available. And the nice thing too is the one that really just wasn't worth it was the hand event. It was terrible, but then they changed it to include gold gear, and now building your hand up a little bit is kind of worth it, because you are going to get that gold gear, you're going to get that purple gear. And it before it was a complete, like, you had to use more catalysts to build your hand team than you got for the event.
In the event.
But now that it's every month,
right.
That was when it was like every 3 months, but now that it's every single month, you can build those guys up a little bit. And then, so finishing kind of the shard thought is then I went to the complete opposite extreme. Because I didn't farm shards in the early game, I decided to farm everybody to 7-star.
That's a lot of shards.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a fine balance. Like I would say, with those flash events, with those legendaries, get them up to maybe 6-star, because a 5-6-star character legendary is gonna do some big damage anyways. And then let that last 300 shards come just through the orbs or something.
All right, that's one mistake.
Yep.
Regrets, one regret. What's another one?
Another thing I did that some people get in the habit of completely ignoring game modes. When I first started, like I said, I built a very wide roster, so I did fairly well in Blitz, but yet I didn't blitz a lot, if that makes sense. And I didn't do any arena. I only did enough arena for the with the 2 daily objectives. So I didn't have a whole lot of power cores. I didn't have a whole lot of arena credits. I didn't have a whole lot of blitz credits, because I just didn't do a lot. And then when I realized that my wide roster was great for blitz, and I started blitzing a lot and doing really well in blitz, I still completely ignored arena. So I literally spent the entirety of arena in the 1000s ranking until I got Ultron, and then I was actually able to get up to the number 1. I never claimed the number 1 spot during payout, but I hit it, and then realizing very quickly, when I stayed in the top 10, top 20 for a while after getting Ultron, that, hey, these cores are really nice. Being able to purchase people in arena, 2 times a day instead of once every 2 days,
right,
is really nice. So, and then Blitz, obviously, if you get to level 60, Blitz Sim is a breeze. But, if you have like Flair was saying earlier about the team comp, if you have a fairly balanced team, you can pretty much take a fight that they should win and just auto it. Like I said, so I know it does take time. So, if there's people that work 10, 12 hours a day and then, have to deal with family stuff or whatever, home stuff when you get home, and you only have like 2 hours to play this game, then sure, ignore some game modes. But, for the average person that, has a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, it's not that hard to, to jump in and do that. If you've got them in your save squads, you just throw them in there and you hit the auto and then just go. If that works for you, then do it. So if you can, don't ignore game modes, because you're basically leaving free shards and free resources just sitting. I think it might be better now than it used to be, but I remember just finishing the milestones. I know those have adjusted some, so like I said, just doing the milestones for Blitz and opening the Blitz orbs from from what you got from the credits and the milestones, you got almost 400k gold, which can take a character up from 1 to that 30-40 level. So if you did that every 3 days, you're moving an entire team up in 2 weeks.
Any other, like, a third? You have a third kind of, like, maybe a lingering thing? You're like, I kind of wish I didn't do that.
Yeah, sure. And this one's pretty straightforward. It's and most people have probably heard it. Find an alliance. Somebody's watching a YouTube video, they probably know this information already. Get a resource to help you. Get Discord, find YouTube, get if you have to, go to Reddit, whatever, to get information, to find alliances. Because we spent months in these starter alliances that hindered us.
Yeah, I remember for the longest time I was in an alliance with my Star Wars guild people. We started an MSF alliance, and we were running low level raids, and I had an account that could do U6 and everything. It was like, in my head I was like, we're not doing anything, we're not progressing, I'm getting hindered by this. So that's when I decided to jump ship and come over to the alliance we're with now. And so everything changed after that one, because we could do war, we could do U6, we could do all these other things. And it's like, yeah, make that decision as soon as you can.
Try to find an alliance that is kind of close to your level. Obviously, in our alternate account, we found an alliance that is well above our level, and it's great for us getting the resources and raids and whatnot. But when it comes to war, if we don't find any of those, whatever you want to call them, ghost, default, just blanket shield minion teams, then we're not getting any war points. We're not getting any war currency. And so we are kind of hindering ourselves a little bit in that regard, but the war store is easily the most valuable currency in this game. And so if you're leaving currency on the table, but again, you're ignoring a game mode, not necessarily because you want to, but because you have to. So if you're in an alliance that's doing these massive wars and stuff, then you're only taking out one or two teams a war. That's ultimately going to hinder you, because you're not going to be able to buy as much stuff to build your roster where you need to. So we've been fortunate that it's worked out well for us, and we find enough of those for us to get several attacks and get our war currency in, but it won't work that way for.
All right, so as a new player, obviously we've started some alt accounts. What are some factions that you think a new or newer player, say like levels 50, level 60 and below, are some factions they should skip?
Honestly, anything new. I mean, really though, anything that's newish, I guess would be my thought, or anything that is geared towards the late game. Don't chase Black Order, and so kind of the same thing. There's obviously suggestions out there. The faster you get characters like Black Bolt and Doc Ock and things like that, the better off you're going to be. But yet again, to get Doc Ock, you need X-Force. Negasonics hidden behind a late game farm. X-23's in the War Store. To get, even Jubilee, she's the brand new one. You have to get Ghost out of the late game, or the War Store.
The War Store. Yellow Jacket.
Is he in Do More? I can't even remember.
Yeah, he's
Loon
in the last chapter of Do More.
3.6 or 3.9.
And then even as Guardians, you've got Hela that's in, she's one of the best characters in the game. She's kind of expensive when you get to DD3, DD4, but, she's in a late game farm. Sif is in the War Store. You kind of noticing a trend here. You're not going to have enough war currency, and you're not going to get to those nodes fast enough unless you're spending money. Now, if you're spending money, have at it. But if you are, farming and doing just your daily stuff, it's going to take so long to get there, chasing them, and it's going to be a bigger burden than it is, you're going to get. It's going to be more of a burden than a reward, because you're going to realize you're going to fall short. And also chasing those, you're passing legendaries that are pretty easy to get, flash events that are pretty easy to get. You're just leaving all of that stuff on the table to chase this one team that's very, very hard to acquire.
And then even then, stuff like Blitz. Blitz is the single biggest release method for characters right now. So if you do that, you are losing out on Blitz teams that you could be building up and get you more points on the table, and you are shorting yourself potential shards out of characters.
Fair enough.
And there's plenty of characters right now that the longest time we were like, what's the point of wave 1? And then we started these new accounts, and it's like, oh, you're given the whole team.
Yeah.
This is a team you should be working on for a while.
Well, and there are and we've talked about that we need to maybe go through that and look at it. There are characters that absolutely, if you get them, by all means, do what you can to build them. If you get a lucky Hela, Mega Orb, and you pull her, go ahead and just build her, because you are going to be using her to unlock Phoenix and is it Black Bolt? So if you get somebody like that, if you get lucky with a symbiote Spider-Man or an Emma, build them. Just build them. If you get a Sinister early build, he's not real great at a low level, but the higher you can get him, he's an absolute must in Dark Dimension 4. So obviously everything before that kind of fills in too. So, if you get one of them, there's nothing wrong with building it, but it doesn't mean you get to chase them now.
Mm-hmm. Don't assume you're going to have them. Assume you're not going to have them.
It shouldn't change your plans other than, okay, my gear is now officially going into these people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about some factions? And I know we mentioned like Hand earlier. What about? I know before I started playing, like Defenders was a really popular faction, because you get Luke Cage, you get Daredevil, and you get Punisher really early in the game. Is that a team that you would build?
I mean, and that goes back to your last video. That I would build them for Blitz. In a perfect world, there we go. You need 8 to 10 teams for war offense and 8 teams for war defense. If you look at the game and you say, okay, this team probably isn't in that top 16 to 18 to 20 teams,
okay, you
probably want to be careful at how far you take them up.
I'm sure there are probably a lot of mistakes that you would want to go back and change. But what are some of those last big mistakes that you think newer players should try to avoid?
Kind of some final closing mistakes.
Not taking advice would be one thing that I've seen people do. Obviously, this is a game. This is Marvel being the IP. People are going to play this game because they love these characters. If you're going to ask it for advice, then you need to be willing to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Be prepared for someone to say, "No, why are you doing this? Stop
it." Or you might get lucky and them tell you exactly what you want to hear, and that works out great. But so just and if you don't want to advise and you want to play this game how you want to play this game, and you want to build your Defenders and your Wolverine to gear tier 15 and take
or
them
your OG Spider-Man.
4, then by all means have fun with the game. You do what you want to do, but don't get offended when people look at you and call you crazy. But and I guess the only other thing I would say is that would be a good thing to do and know would be know when to go wide and know when to go tall. And maybe there's a mixture of both that you can do. I know you guys have gone taller than I have with your Wave 1 in particular, where I have gone a lot wider, and you guys are way past me in arena. But I'm still, I'm doing what I can in arena. I'm still, fighting for that top 1500, where you guys are above that somewhere. I'm not sure where.
But you have blown us out of the water
on Blitz, yeah.
And it's because of I've decided to go wide early. So I have 3 teams at that almost 3 teams at that 45 level threshold, and it's not like I'm blitzing a lot.
Any final closing thoughts, Flair?
Take everything that we're saying with a grain of salt, because some things will change. Obviously, there was a point where Sinister Six was kind of meh, and then they came out with Doc Ock, and that changed the team a little bit. There's these rumors of a new character come in to fill in the Defenders, with Punisher leaving to go to Skillet's Berry. Take all these things with a grain of salt. There's some at some point in time, all early game advice will have been changed to new advice at some point. There's gonna be some fundamentals that won't change, but like teams, where you build characters to, some of that stuff may change. So take everything with a grain of salt. There's a lot of tried and tested methodologies that have worked, but how it happens.
Well, all right, guys, that's going to conclude this video with Crash. Be sure to tune in for our next video with him, where we're going to be talking about how we can make you guys blitz more efficiently. Well, all right, guys, You guys have a great weekend. We'll